Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, spoiler season is finally here. Yeah, it's been quite a while since the last spoiler season, though there have been some miscellaneous leaks and miscellaneous spoilers in between. That being said, it started off with a bang. So let's jump into the cards. So, first up, we've got a card that illustrates a brand new mechanic, but it's kind of another iteration of another mechanic that we've seen in the past, though. Kind of like a combination of a couple. Let's talk about Dazzling Escape. And again, thank you, MTG Goldfish, for the translated version of some of these cards. It's an instant for a single white mana, but as you can see, it's a little different at the top right there. White mana, but like a little plus sign too right there. And what exactly does that mean? Well, it has Spree. Choose one or more additional costs. Plus one cost, so I assume that would mean it would cost a single white mana and a single colorless mana, so 2 mana in total. Exile target non-token creature. Beginning of the next end step, return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Plus 2, so our other options, so again costing 1 and 2, which would be 3 mana essentially. Choose target creature, destroy it if it has the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield. So, this is kind of like a combination of like Kicker, but also like a Fuse card. Maybe more so like a Fuse card because you are getting kind of both halves essentially. And correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on this, judges out there, but I assume you can't just cast this for a single white mana for nothing. I mean, the only reason to do that would be like Storm Count, but I don't think you could because it does say choose one or more additional costs. I mean, maybe you can. It's a very edge case thing, but like just adding a Storm Count would be cheaper. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. That being said, again, this is a flexible card that can give you, well, the ability to get rid of a non-token creature temporarily. Again, like let's say an opponent's attacking you with something you're like, I don't like that. It's a non-token creature, say, go away and come back at the again step. Again, obviously more so and probably more useful in Commander, a blink effect. Being like, hey, I have a blink deck. Yes, I would like this card that is flexible and can blink one of my creatures. Great. Non-token creatures, but again, you're not going to be blinking a token creature itself. The reason I would say non-token is because it's like, it shouldn't be a removal spell for an opponent's token creature is basically what it is. That being said, this is kind of like a delayed blink effect where you are able to like avoid a board wipe because again, it comes back at the end step, so keep that in mind. It also does say at its owner's control, which unlike Cloud Shift, which does allow you to kind of like steal creatures permanently if you've threatened them, this one is one that does bring it back under its owner's control. Keep in mind, though, again, it doesn't have to be your creature. So let's say like an opponent stole one of your creatures permanently. You could blink your own creature and it comes back under your control. So keep that in mind again there. Obviously, this can pair well if you utilize both effects, though. Like, let's say you do have like the biggest creature on the board. And then you're like, the second biggest creature on the board is under that opponent's control and I don't like it. So you could pay in total what would be 4 mana, a single white, and then 3 colorless. You'd get both effects. You could temporarily get rid of one of your own creatures, so you could destroy the largest creature on the board. So this is kind of like a singular removal or a blink or a combination of both. I like the design of this because, again, it gives you that flexibility. And yeah, this can definitely be a utilized card in a good amount of decks out there. I mean, especially blink effect decks out there because 2 mana for a blink effect is pretty standard for the most part. I mean, yeah, you got your Cloud Shifts, you got your whatever the blue one is that I always forget what it's called. That gives you like a counter if it's a spirit. No one cares about that part. But basically, a lot of blink effects are at 2 mana. This gives you flexibility as well in what you can do with it, being like blink plus removal potentially. So yeah, a really cool card. And one that does illustrate, again, I think a new cool way to kind of utilize Fuse these days. So it's kind of like, again, in my opinion, it's kind of like more so Fuse, like a little bit of kickery in there too. Next up, we've got Displaced Haunt. A enchantment for 1 and a blue. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell from your hand this turn and Displaced Haunt isn't a creature, it becomes a 3/3 spirit creature with flying to other types. That is permanent. That does not look like it is going back again with this translation, essentially. So again, it's not like until the end of the turn. No, it's permanently a 3/3 flyer. So obviously you're kind of getting a discount just being 2 mana. That being said, again, not casting a spell from your hand. You can get around that with a couple of ways, like by still casting things like, oh gosh, I mean, what is it now called? I can't remember what the new one's called. The old one essentially is Foretell, right? But Foretell for 0 in this set is going to be basically something too. So you can kind of get around that by still casting things on your turn or from exile, obviously. 2 and a blue, Surveil 1. So being able to just repeatedly pay to Surveil, that can be quite nice. Where exactly does this fit into a deck in Commander? I don't know if it really does. There aren't too many decks out there like, hey, I want enchantments that can become creatures. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe ones that really care about its Surveil, but it's an interesting card for sure. Next up, Heath Rebirth. A source for 5 mana in Golgari. Return to 1 target creature card from your grave to the battlefield. Return to 1 target permanent card from your grave to your hand. This is interesting because typically when it comes to zombifying creatures, reanimating creatures, it's usually around 4 mana these days for just like your standard effect that like doesn't have a downside to it. This one now also gives you the ability to bring another permanent from your graveyard back to your hand. So it's flexible in that it's reanimating just a creature, bringing back with some great recursion another permanent. Any kind of a deck that utilizes like a bunch of, well, reanimation effects and then also likes to get things back in their hand. I guess a little specific with that kind of requirement, but it is, again, when it comes to reanimation effects, a little, I wouldn't say overcost, because again, that 1 extra mana to get something back is nice. It just depends on what your deck is looking for. Next up, Vraska joins up. A legendary enchantment for Golgari colors, so just 2 mana in total. When Vraska joins up, enters the battlefield, put a death touch counter on each creature you control. That's already spicy right there. Being able to give all your creatures permanent death touch as long as they stay in play with that counter on them is quite nice. On top of that, whenever a legendary creature you control deals counter to a player, draw a card. Eddie, ignore this card. Eddie, don't see this card, please. Blame Eddie in the comments below right now because Eddie has a legendary tribal deck and it's quite powerful already. And this giant draw engine is gross. So yeah, if you've got a legendary tribal deck, I mean, there's a lot of new legendary tribal commanders over the past couple of years. Like the new Joda, essentially, is a really big one. But yeah, there's a lot of other ones that can be heavily utilized and very, very effective. This can be a very good one. I mean, think about this one plus Sisay. This one plus Sisay where you can just like tutor out. I'm talking about the Sisay where it's like pay 5, 1 of each color. Go get a legendary permanent out of your graveyard library, put it right into play. Essentially, yeah, this one is very easy for Sisay to get because Sisay only needs, 1 extra power to actually go do that. And then be able to just tutor that out, give all your creatures death touch out of nowhere, which is great for both offense and defense. And then also being able to be like, oh yeah, I just draw based on combat damage to opponents. Lovely. Keep in mind, it does say a legendary creature control deals combat to a player, draw a card. It is limited, again, just based on it being legendary, so it's kind of like a... Oh gosh, what's the pirate one? Coastal Piracy, there you go. It is limited where, again, it's just legendary creatures, but it's not limited to like just 1 per each player or 1 total for the turn or whatever it is. So there is limitation to it, but again, if you've got a legendary tribal deck, you're going to be drawing quite a bit with that. So yeah, definitely one that can definitely work well. I mean, obviously with legendary tribal decks. This being a legend itself is quite nice too. Next up. Okay, here we go. Insatiable Avarice, a source for a single black mana, but again, a little plus side on it, so we know that is a spree card. I mean, at least for now, that is kind of like the only spree cards have that. Maybe in the future, other cards have that plus side too, or a minus sign on them. Whoa! Choose 1 or more additional cost, plus 2. That's 2 colors, so it'd be 1 and 2 colors, so that'd be 3 mana in total. Search your library for a card, then shuffle it, then put that card on top. I just said shuffle your library. They changed that just to shuffle. So basically like a vampiric tutor, but again at sorcery speed and at 3 mana with no downside to it. Interesting. Or plus black. Target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. So kind of like a bigger Sign in Blood in a way, which is quite spicy. So yeah, this card already is probably going to see a good amount of play just because of its draw potential. That being said, do keep in mind that although this is a flexible card in how you can cast it, if you are in a deck that is, say, like 4+ colors, I mean, maybe even 3+ colors, paying black is going to be a bit tougher than some people might realize. So, yes. That being said, again, because it is flexible, you can be like, well, I don't have black, but I still might want to just tutor something out of my library, put it on top. You obviously can just play it that way. So it's not a dead card in your hand because of that. It's pretty easy to cast in that way, obviously. And yes, if you want both, it's quite good too. Being able to go get any card out of your library, put it on top, and draw into it plus 2 other cards for 5 mana is quite good. Losing 3 life is not a big deal at all. Again, you're in Commander. You still have at 40 life. This is less than 1/10 of your life total. 1 mana, 1 life, 1 mana. Well, it's 1 mana and 1 life per card. That is very, 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 very good. Also, it could be like a sneaky finisher for you too, kind of like Sign in Blood, where it's like, oh, that player's at 2. The player's at 3 with this. Hey, you draw 3, you lose 3. Oh no, you're gone! Again, having that flexibility is quite nice. It's gonna be interesting to see kind of all these like brand new like spree cards, like this kind of like fuse kicker meld in a way. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, a tutor like vampiric tutor style, get something on top, plus the flexibility of just drawing 3 for 3 life is huge. Gosh, what's that? I always forget the name of this one. It's like someone's like hanging off a cliff kind of or whatever. It's like you pay 3 mana of different colors and you draw 3, you lose 3. Let me know in the comments below. Someone always does because I always forget the name of that one for some reason. But yeah, that one sees a good amount of play. And again, that one has a requirement of essentially being like in a very, or at least a 3-color deck essentially to get the most out of it. Painful Quandary? No. Maybe something like that? Not Painful Quandary. Anyways. Being able to draw 3 with 3 mana is huge. So yeah, mono black, 2-color black decks are definitely going to want this, and 3-color probably. And then plus after that, it's going to be a little more difficult again to actually pay the black. But yeah, you still can fall back onto just, tutoring off the top. Anyways, moving on. These quickly, because I actually technically covered them in a leaks episode. And yeah, it looks like those leaks were real because they pretty much always are. Lava Spur Boots. Artifact equipment for 1 mana. Equip creature gets +1/+0. It has haste and ward 1. Equip 1. Kind of like baby Swiftfoot Boots in a way. Costs half as much, but it has the exact same equip cost. +1/+0 is, I guess, not really baby Swiftfoot Boots because it gives you like a little extra right there. Where it is taking away from is obviously not Hexproof, but ward 1, which is much worse, but still nice. So this does still grant that haste, which allows you to utilize, again, your activated ability from a commander potentially if it's a tap ability, or just be able to attack right away essentially. So it's quite nice. But yeah, that ward 1 is a little bit of protection because Wizards throws ward on everything these days. Is this going to like replace Swiftfoot Boots? No. Is it going to like go alongside of Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves in decks that like really want that type of effect? Yes. Is it going to go in equipment decks? Yes. So it is a card that is quite good. Not on the level of those other cards, but still quite nice and definitely has a spot in similar decks. Next up. Again, going quickly through this one because we also saw this one in a leak as well. Wizards, get it together. A 4/5 Elf Scout Selvala is back. Eager Trailblazer. I was wrong on this one because you couldn't really see like the mana cost, and other people like pointed out too that I was wrong on that because of like the green on one side and the white on the other side. That's my bad. I didn't even think about that. But yes, this is a Selesnya commander. I do think it in Naya could have been pretty cool. Like Selvala with a little bit of red would have been nice, but that's okay. Vigilance, whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap. Target creature you control gets +1 until end of turn. Activate on sorcery. Tap, choose a color, add a mana of that color for each different power among creatures you control. So basically, this confirms a couple of things. Actually, I think, we got confirmation that there are mercenaries to get those 1/1 red creature tokens. We did not get confirmation, I don't believe, on what they did. Or like the picture of them, but we did see that in a leak with this too. So again, all the leaks there so far that we've seen have been kind of confirmed. Not all the leaks, but some leaks have been confirmed. Yeah, this is interesting. It's kind of like Torrens. Is it Torrens Fist the Angels? There's so many cards lately that it's impossible to keep track. Regardless, being able to just get extra creatures every single time you cast a creature is very, 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 very good. Helps you go wide so quickly. But this also lets you go big quickly as well with certain powers, and also just get a ton of mana too. So there's some pretty broken things you can do with that. There are a decent amount of untap effects, obviously in white. There's some in green too. So yeah, being able to just untap this commander and do it again, get an absurd amount of mana out of this. Obviously, cards like, 2 arms, with that exclamation point, I'm not going to yell, 2 arms! Maybe I will. Untap your creatures, draw a card. You untapping all your creatures is great because, again, those mercenaries have the ability to tap and pump other creatures. So being able to do that is nice to be able to get different powers, essentially, among your creatures, which is quite nice when it comes to this. Yeah, this can give you an absurd amount of mana. There's definitely some combos that can work along with it. Yeah, definitely some, like, hey, Staff of Domination, is that the one? Being able to just pump a bunch of mana into something. You can definitely go infinite. You can definitely just get giant, not fireball effects, but definitely giant, like, pump effects as well with this. Yeah, or just giant, like, hey, I put an absurd amount of creature tokens into play with, like, to create justice kind of things, too. One thing I do want to mention, and I already kind of complained about this earlier, so really quick, I just don't like when they unnecessarily, like, limit things. Again, activate on the sorcery. Why? Why do you need to throw in the mercenaries? Why can't you just utilize it as a combat trick on your opponent's turns? Why? Or, like, just, like, on your turn, like, swing. All right, decide who you're going to block with because I have these creatures sitting back and I can just tap to pump certain creatures. Why limit it? Wizards, come on. Stop babying people. Moving on. Fortune Loyal Steed. So this one is interesting, actually, the more I think about it. At first, it's like, okay, it's kind of limited, but it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe. A 2/4 Beast Mount. So we've actually seen, I believe, some actual spoilers previously that have confirmed that we do have mounts, or maybe they were leaks. I don't know. For 2 and a white. Enters the battlefield, scry 2. Whenever it attacks while saddled at the end of combat, exile to one creature that's saddled this turn, then return those cards to the battlefield under the zone's control, saddle 1. So this is kind of like Crew, essentially. So instead of being a vehicle, it's already a creature. and it stays a creature, but by saddling it, it's like, I get to ride you, cool. Which can be kind of awkward if you're like, my dragon, which is massive, the Ur Dragon size, is riding this tiny beast. Cool, I mean, it's pretty big, but like nowhere near enough to have the Ur Dragon on it. Anyways, magic flavor. Yeah, it's kind of like crewing, but instead of actually turning into a creature, you are just getting the trigger. I think these are typically attack triggers from what I've seen so far, or they're always attack triggers. This is interesting because, obviously, again, when this ETBs, you scry 2, which is not card advantage, but is fantastic card selection, and repeatable card selection because, again, this commander is going to be exiled every single time you saddle it. Again, actually, this doesn't give you the option, right? While saddle at the end of combat, exile it. So you always have to exile it. You don't have to exile the creature that saddled it, but you can. So, usually when I do that, usually when I build the deck around that. But yeah, anything basically can saddle it, as long as it has at least 1 power, which is a very, very low requirement. I did have to take a card. I'm going to talk about some budget buys and price your picks to work along with this. I did have to take 1 card out because I was like, oh wait, it doesn't work. Technically, I think you could probably have more than 1. It's probably like crew where you can just like saddle with more than 1. I would assume it's the same thing. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen ruling on that, if it's different. That being said, being able to use and abuse ETB is a very powerful thing. You are limited to mono white. This commander helps you with kind of one of the weaknesses of white, actually potentially even more, again, in combination with other cards, but one of the weaknesses of mono white typically is card advantage. This gives you card selection, repeatable card selection, so again, ETB every single time you attack essentially with this, as long as you protect it in combat and it survives, you are getting scry 2. Plus, in combination with other things, can be quite powerful as well. So, yeah, some really interesting spoilers so far. A big start to the day. New mechanic. But yes, with this, let's actually, I guess new mechanics with saddle and then also spree. So there you go. But yeah, with this, let's talk about some cards that work well with Fortune and Loyalty in case you're interested in this one. Talk about some budget buys, price your picks. All the cards are in a link in the description below. But that said, let's jump into them. So now let's go through the budget buys again. Cards that are less than $1, even within my budget. Cards that work well with Fortune. I almost said Loyal, and then I went with Fortune. I think that's right. Fortune Loyal Steed, not Loyal Fortune Steed, which I guess either could kind of work. Anyways, Spirited Companion, a 1/1 enchanted creature dog that costs 1 and a white. Enters the battlefield, draw a card. Actually, I did have, Wall of Omens in this spot, but I was like, wait, it needs a saddle 1. So unless you saddled it, I guess, with 2 creatures, which I think you can, essentially. I'm sure it's like crew. This can actually saddle. So you have this like cute little dog riding this beast, and then both of them go away and then come back. So when that happens, again, that's quite a good combination. Again, just basically, hey, yeah, I entered the battlefield. I get to scry 2 and draw a card, or draw a card then scry 2. You can choose what order that's going to be. But yes, nicely now, card selection and advantage all wrapped up in one. Next up, Solemn Simulacrum, of course. The sad robot is going to be great in this kind of a deck. A 2/2 golem for 4 mana, enters the battlefield, search life for a base land card, put that card battlefield tap, then shuffle. Unfortunately, it is not a leave the battlefield trigger. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. It is a death trigger, you may draw a card, so you're not like also getting the card draw every single time this happens. That being said, being able to scry 2 as well as ramp every single time you attack with your commander can be quite good. Karmic Guide, how about scry 2 also reanimate something? A 2/2 enters the battlefield, return target creature card from grave to the battlefield. Keep in mind this does have an echo cost, so yeah, that can become quite expensive over time if you want to keep this in play to do it again and again and again and again. That being said, yeah, you can do some pretty powerful things with this. Next up, Sun Titan, one that does not have an echo cost, 6/6 Vigilant, enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your grave to the battlefield. The thing about this one is it's like, it doesn't really make sense to do it, so I mean, I think this is going to be like many people will include in the deck because probably makes sense in combination with some other things as well, like there's going to be other blink effects most likely in the deck, but like when it comes to saddling this, it's like unless you really don't want to send this into danger, which is a 6/6 Vigilant, which you're probably okay with, then saddling it, like I think again, like which means like tapping it essentially to crew, essentially. Yeah, might not work the best because you're already getting that trigger when you attack with it too, so just keep that in mind. Next up, Sunblast Angel. 4/5 Flying Angel, enters the battlefield, destroy all tap creatures. Yeah, that can be quite effective if you're not attacking with any of your other creatures, and just having this on the board can be a great deterrent for your opponents if they know that you can repeat this, and being able to like, oh yeah, it's my turn. Oh, cool, I'll saddle this up, I'll, swing, and my beast and my angel that was riding the beast, which again is just funny to picture, yeah, are both coming back and they're going to destroy the board. Cool. Meteor Golem, so you're destroying things, enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. Repeating this can be quite nice, can be a great way to just keep destroying things again and again, especially in a blink strategy. Or mere Battle Sphere. being able to go wide and make a ton of creatures over and over and over again. A 4/7 ETB, make 4 1/1 mirror. Also in this attack, you may tap X on tap mirror you control. If you do, it gets +X with 0 until turn. X the deals X damage to player planeswalkers attacking. So later on, kind of once you built up like 20 mirror, you can be like, okay, I swing them at you. I tap my 20 mirror, 20 damage to your face. You're gone. So yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things with that. Next up, I did kind of mention this was Steve. Not Steve. That's the Crew Tribe Builder. Goodness gracious, it's early in the day. Sad Robot. Revelark has an actual leave the battlefield trigger, LTB, not just a death trigger, so this is superior in some ways. A 4/3 elemental with flying for 5 mana. When it leaves the battlefield, returns to 2 target creature cards with the power 2 or less from grave to the battlefield. Typically, you'd be getting this kind of with its evoke, being able to just like have it come in and die. But with this kind of a commander again, being able to repeatedly make this leave the battlefield, you can really take advantage of this and bring other things back. So yeah, make sure you're keeping that in mind. Also keep in mind things like, Mentor the Meek, which doesn't care about itself coming into play, but other things coming into play. Whenever a creature power 2 or less enters battlefield under your control, you can pay 1 if you do draw a card. So yeah, again, keep in mind your commander itself has that 2 power. Plus, a lot of the things I've talked about so far have low power as well. So having 1, potentially 2 creatures coming to play every single time can be very effective because, again, you're like, okay, scry 2. Ooh, I like those cards. Let's draw them. 2 mana, essentially. 1 mana for each of those creatures. Drawing both those cards. Or, again, like, ooh, I don't like those cards. Put them on the bottom. Draw 2 new cards. Can be quite good in combination. Next up, Rumor Gatherer. For free, you can get value, too. No creature in the battlefield you control, scry 1. Second time this ability resolve this turn, draw a card instead. So essentially with this, if you're saddling your commander, you are getting at least, the scry 1 as well as the card drawn every single time you do that, because you will have 2 creatures coming into play. And yeah, that's like scry 3, draw 1, which is quite nice, plus the other, creatures ETB effect, whatever it might be. And again, you can kind of like stack those however you want. Again, it's like scry 2, then scry 1. I know I could combine that to like scry 3, but it's technically not. Next up, Welcoming Vampire. Somehow budget friendly now. Love it. 2/3 Vampire flying. Whenever 1 or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter battlefield control, draw a card, triggers only once each turn. It's only going to actually give you 1 card. That being said, it's it's guaranteed to give you 1 card as long as your commander doesn't have like a pump effect on the field, like an Anthem to help it out, because again, it has 2 power. So being able to do scry 2 and draw a card can be quite good. Again, guaranteed every single time this happens. And again, like I said, you're probably gonna have other blink effects as well. So like on your opponent's turns, you can take advantage of this too. Blessed Sanctuary, take advantage of any of your creatures coming into play. Prevent all non-combat damage that be dealt to you and creatures you control. That's quite nice. Just like having to be like, oh, you're gonna blast one sec? Doesn't matter. Whenever a non-zone creature's battlefield control, though, create a 2/2 white unicorn creatures token. That's the most important part of this card. Being able to just, again, not limited, not just like only on your turn or like once a turn. No. Every single time your creatures come into play, non-token creatures, you're making a token creature. Very powerful, very good. Being able to say, oh yeah, I just stack with my commander and another creature. They both leave. They both come back. I get 3 ETBs. And also I get 2 2/2s. 4 power across 2 bodies. That can add up a lot throughout the game. With this commander, though, you need to protect it. Frontline medic cards like this can be great. A 3/3 human cleric. Whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control get indestructible on a turn. You can also sacrifice it to counter spells with the extra mana cost that pay 3. Yeah, being able to attack with this and say, oh, I'm attacking with my commander. Oh, okay, cool. And probably another creature as well. Cool. All my creatures get indestructible, which is great. Being able to protect them in combat can be huge because, again, your commander does not have any inherent protection. It's not like they don't exile right away. Again, it's like at the end of combat. So it has to survive combat in order to get that effect. You want to protect it. You want to make sure you get that value out of it. So yeah, ways to protect it can be great. Another way could just be a way to get it through, like Victory's Herald, a 4/4 flying angel. Whenever attacks, attacking creatures gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. Again, giving all your creatures flying and lifelink can be a very, very, very valuable thing. And again, a way to get your commander through potentially in combat. Next up, be pricier picks, cards that are more than $1 outside of my budget, but might be within yours. Again, yeah, ETBs. Good things to use in views with this commander. Lore on the Third Path, a 2/1 Human Artificer for 3 mana. Vigilance into the battlefield, destroy up to 1 artifact or enchantment. A great low-to-the-ground, kind of like Elvish Rejuvenator, not Rejuvenator. Reclamation Sage, there we go, kind of effect. Also, tap you and target opponent to draw a card. So again, a nice little politic effect right there. And one that, again, kind of shores up, a weakness in this color, essentially. Next up, Ranger Captain of Eos. This is $22. A 3/3 human soldier for 3 mana. Enters the battlefield. You may search your library for a creature card. Convert mana cost 1 or less. Reopen your hand, then shuffle. Sacrifice it. Your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Nice little protection effect right there. But again, yeah, a way to use and abuse this is just to keep getting more and more and more creatures out of your deck. There's a lot of very effective creatures with converted mana cost 1 that can work with this commander. Next up, Recruiter the Guard. A 1/1 enters battlefield. You may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less. Reveal open your hand, then shuffle. So again, even better potentially. Being able to get creatures out of your deck that meet that requirement, that can still well help your commander out. That can have really good ETBs. Make sure you're keeping those in mind. Panharmonicon. Yeah, this one's pretty obvious. If an artifact creature in the battlefield causes a triggered ability, a opponent you control to trigger, the ability triggers initial time. Yeah, pretty obvious on why this one's good. Being able to double up your ETBs is absolutely incredible with this kind of a commander. Just being able to scry 2, then scry 2 again is already very good. But yeah, again, like Solemn Simulacrum, cool. I ramp 2. Gosh, what's the little dog? Draw 2. Very good as well. And now I'm realizing that I just made a mistake right there for scrolling too far. I also made a mistake by putting the wrong version of this. There we go. Look, I didn't make a mistake at all. Look, see it. A 4/7 Phyrexian Praetor, Elistorm, Mother Machines. If a permanent antimatter causes triggered ability of a permanent you control trigger triggers this whole time. Again, so basically, Panharmonicon doubling up all of your permanents ETBs. I mean, I guess Panharmonicon only does creatures and artifacts, but that's all that really matters most of the time. Anyways, permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities. Your permanents your opponents control trigger, so also a deterrent for your opponents to get any value out of their ETBs, which can be quite nice as well. So yeah, definitely some good, out of budget, for at least for me, inclusions as well to consider. But now as this episode is come to a close, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on it. What kind of cards are you excited to see? Are you excited about these brand new mechanics and keywords? Spree seems to be pretty interesting. Saddle seems interesting as well. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on my picks for cards that work with, let's see if I can get the name right, Fortune Loyal Steed? Not Loyal Fortune Steed. Yeah, if you are interested in those cards, make sure you consider some of them. The card list link is in the description below. Of course, stay tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers. Spoiler season is just starting. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.